end zone. Underthrown. Touchdown. Trey Tucker. To the end zone it goes. Caught. Touchdown. Armon Benz.
Bearcat Blitz on the Believe Network. Welcome in, everybody. I'm your host, Russ Heltman. Joined, as always, by my co-host, Neil Meyer. I'm from the Cincinnati Bearcats on SI, and he is from the frontofficenews.com. And we are presented by FanDuel Sportsbook, America's #1 sportsbook, where there are profit boosts all over the place entering week 3 of college football. There's a 30% boost on the Texas A&M Notre Dame action. There's a 50% boost on UGA in Tennessee, a wager in that game. And there's another 50% all-purpose boost that you could use on the Bearcats if they ever put up a betting line for Cincinnati versus Northwestern State. I'm not too confident that that is going to actually happen, as there is not one out yet, and we are just 2 days away from the football contest. But you can bet on the Bearcats to win the Big 12 if you think they can pull off the miracle run and eclipse some of the top teams in the league, including Utah at #1 on the odds chart on FanDuel, plus 400. Cincinnati down at 33-1, ahead of the likes of Oklahoma State, West Virginia, UCF, and Colorado. Go to FanDuel Sportsbook today and check out all of those profit boosts. Plus, if you're a new member and you refer a friend, you can get $50 in bonus bets added to your accounts. FanDuel Sportsbook, great presenting sponsor of Bearcat Blitz. We have plenty to get to on this week's episode, including a full, complete Cincinnati Bearcats basketball roster. Jizzle James is out, and a guard has been added to replace him. Might be a little bit of a better option in terms of skill set for this position on the roster than Jizzle James was going into the season. We'll discuss that at the top of the show. And then what are we watching for this weekend? What are the reasons to watch a game that is expected to be so one-sided that they are not even putting a betting line out because they can't figure out what number to put out there for the likes of Northwestern State, coming off a 66-0 forfeit due to weather at the hands of the Minnesota Golden Gophers. Touch on all that across this episode of Bearcat Blitz right here on the Believe Network, presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. Coming at you after these messages. Bring in my partner Neil for the bulk of the show here now as we turn our sights towards the hardwood for just a moment. It's the thick of football season, but Cincinnati made waves because of DePaul's loss. Yes. Lucas Atauri, Brazilian international guard. He's the final member of the Bearcats 2025-26 roster, Neil. He's the 15th member to join. 21-year-old, scored 6.5 points per game and shot 37% from beyond the arc for the Paulistano Corporate Sao Paulo club Brazilian team last year. Was a strong international player this past summer on the country circuit for Brazil. And quote here from Wes Miller, "Our staff has been looking forward to welcoming Lucas to our Bearcat basketball family. He will bring significant international experience to our team and instantly adds another high-quality perimeter player to our squad. I'm eager to see him on the floor and bring his dynamic skill set to our roster." And the addition means that Dede Thomas is now the only player who played more than 50 minutes that is returning to the roster from last season. And Neil, this seems like a solid addition, a guy that played a decent amount of minutes in the Brazilian league last year, 19.2 minutes per game, did shoot just 39.9% from the field, but a large majority of his shot diet came from outside the arc, where I mentioned he was a 37% shooter from deep and a healthy 86% from the free throw line. So that usually means that if you're hitting that well from the free throw line, those outside shooting numbers can maybe be consistent year to year and translate over. Neil, replacing a guy in Jizzle James who was far from a good shooter last year, if at all ever really a consistently efficient shooter. And I talked about it in our Bearcat group chat earlier this week. We're going to be seeing a lot more rim shots, a lot more perimeter shots, and praise be, outside of Dede Thomas, there ain't going to be no more of this mid-range junk anymore on my eyeballs. I can't wait to see the shooting process and the shooting diet fully optimized for this team because you know this, Neil. I did not appreciate that shot diet and all those mid-range jumpers last year, and it was a direct hindrance on this offense all season long how many mid-range jumpers Jizzle James and Day Thomas took in 2024-25.
Yeah, absolutely, Russ. And then you look back at what Lucas Atari brings to the table. People forget that he did have a dominant showing this summer in the global games. I mean, he recorded 14.7 rebounds in Brazil's victory over Georgetown to secure the gold medal. So
A
he
guy that's
has
a little taller than Jizzle James as well, so going to offer maybe a little bit more rebounding acumen.
correct as well. So standing at 6'5", shot 39% from the from behind the arc a season ago. He provides so much more to Cincinnati than what people might expect. People might not have really heard of him or followed his game, but he can shoot the 3-point shot, but he can also get active around the rim. And when you have a guard who is coming away with 7, 8 rebounds a game, that is something you do like to see. So he brings that international experience, but so does just about everybody else on this Cincinnati roster. So
What, the eighth or ninth international player on this team now, something like that.
correct. So I'm kind of eager to see him get to Cincinnati and see what uh the kind of role for Atari will be, right? Obviously, it's a little bit behind the eight ball, just now arriving at Cincinnati here within the next few days. So it's going to be interesting. Obviously, he was originally committed to DePaul back a couple weeks ago, and it sounds like there were some academic issues that didn't allow him to fully enroll at DePaul. So Cincinnati swooped in and found their final member of the 2025-2026 team, and Corey Evans actually released a statement on Twitter as well, Russ. Not sure if you saw that, but he said, and quote, Lucas brings a wealth of international experience, size, and energy in the backcourt, along with a reliable, confident jump shot. Evans said, we are excited to have him on board. And when you hear the words reliable and confident jump shot, that is something that Cincinnati was desperately needing compared to a season ago. But Russ, I'm
Really,
really
this whole century, Neil, there hasn't been many reliable or confident jump shots for the Cincinnati Bearcats, normally defensive-led programs, this entire century.
yeah, and I'm really excited to see guys like Atari, Jordy Rodriguez, Keyshawn Tillery, Sean Abayev, Dede Thomas, Kirk Harisa. I'm very excited to see how these guys all complement with each other. But for right now, it's safe to say, Russ, you look down, Cincinnati's going to be doing a lot of attacking at the rim. Maybe get that lob game going. I don't know if that's a good thing to talk about or not, but with Mustafa Cham, you have Tyler McKinley, Halvin DeZellet, Jalen Haynes.
Yeah,
Who
should
knows
be
what
should
that
be
might
way
be?
more. I mean, there was like what one lob threat last year, basically. Maybe Dan on a good day here and there, Skillings, but it was really mostly just Aziz.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see what this Cincinnati team might look like. And I know before the football game on Saturday, I was actually standing on the sidelines behind the basketball team. Russ, I think this is the tallest and lengthiest basketball team that Wes Miller has had in his 5-year tenure. Because there was times where I caught myself sitting there thinking, okay, if I'm looking forward, Tyler McKinley's to my right, Jalen Haynes to my left, and Sean Abayev in the middle. And Sean Abayev is as tall as Tyler McKinley and Jalen Haynes. And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, all right, Wes Miller and Corey Evans did a great job assembling some height here. So overall, I'm excited, man. We're about, what, a month and a half out. So really excited to see that. It is a late edition, so we're going to see how Lucas Atari gets acclimated. But we are quickly approaching basketball season here in Clifton.
We are a cool new addition. Glad to see the Bearcats were able to kind of pivot quickly and recover from the loss of Jizzle James by replacing his roster spot and making sure that doesn't go unused once things get going in the season. Because Neil, we know it's as close as it gets to professional basketball at this point in the history of college basketball, but you still cannot trade for players in the middle of the season. And you can't really. I'm pretty like once school starts, which it already has, which just makes it even more impressive that they were able to get this done. It just makes it really difficult to add any players to your roster because they obviously still have to attend school and they'd be way behind at this point, 2 weeks into classes as we record here on September 11th. Of course, obviously, a major, major day in American history. We never forget, hashtag never forget, September 11th. Obviously, our heart goes out to all the people remembering the loved ones they lost on this date. And it's a major, major, major remembrance day across America. So our heart goes out to everybody. And we are hoping to make it a memorable weekend for Cincinnati Bearcats football. Although, how memorable can it really be taking on a Northwestern State team that is so bad they have not even released a betting line for the contest? We'll discuss all that coming back from the break and touch on what to watch for this weekend, plus a prediction from Neil and I as we get you through the rest of our Bearcat Blitz presented by FanDuel Sportsbook, where, as I mentioned earlier, you can bet on the Bearcats to win the Big 12 conference championship game this season on the gridiron. They're 33-1 right now to be the Big 12 champions, with a pretty big gap between them and Utah at number 1 on the board with a 4-1 mark to win the Big 12. Previewing Northwestern State, what there is to preview after this on Bearcat Blitz. Neil, obviously, I think we discussed this, or I don't know, we may not have discussed this yet about the Dante Corleone injury. We touched on it being obviously maybe pretty much malpractice to try to play him this week. Doesn't make any sense, especially if he is dealing with something significant, which it appears to be something significant enough to keep him away from a game. It's not necessarily that Scott Satterfield didn't stipulate whether it was a foot or an ankle, but it looked like foot ankle area that got dinged up for Dante Corleone. He will not be playing in this game on Saturday against Northwestern State. They're trying to get him as healthy as possible, get him ready to roll for what it would be 2 weeks. He's going to be out 2 weeks most likely for practice, and they're hoping to get him back for the following week against Kansas. Obviously, Neil, a very well-timed bye week for the Bearcats, given this news coming up when you figure, I mean, it's kind of it's almost 2 bye weeks back to back. I mean, Tuesday, I've never seen so many backups get reps at practice on a Tuesday compared to most weeks of my time covering the team over the past few years. If that goes to show you anything about the snap diet for players in this upcoming game, there will be a lot of players getting run, and that includes guys that are going to be filling in for the snaps of Dante Corleone. Logan Wilson, though, Neil, appears to be coming back. It was just kind of a 50-50 game time decision against Bowling Green, decided to hold him out, but he was back at practice this week, and it appears he will be back ready to roll. Got some good snaps for Daniel James in his first start at cornerback for the Bearcats. And then obviously Drew Logan, unfortunate news. He will be out for the year with a torn ACL. Just the worst kind of injuries. Never want to hear about stuff like this. And all our thoughts go out to Drew Logan as he recovers from that ding up. But other than that, Neil, pretty much good to go injury wise. And the gauge for success for me in this game is a scoring number that starts with a 5 and a final score from Northwestern State that does not get into the double digits. And honestly, I would consider any touchdown scored by Northwestern State a failure by the Cincinnati Bearcats. 3 field goals or less and 50+ points. Those are the markers for any kind of success for me in this game, Neil. You need to lay the wood down on somebody, get some good vibes going into the bye week, completely obliterate this team, leave no doubt by halftime, get some Oz Jones some good run, get some Brady Lichtenberg some good run, get all those backups in there throughout most of the second half. And if you give up a touchdown in the fourth quarter when it's third stringers, I'm not gonna be up in arms and spewing venom this next week on the show. But all in all, Neil, this is a team you should hang a 5 on, and you should give up less than double digits to.
Yeah, I'm right there with you too, Russ. There's no reason Cincinnati should not win this game, arguably 50-9 or 50-6, whatever it might be, right? Because we kind of joked about it in the press conference, right? You look at this schedule, they've won 1 game in 2 years, right? So I mean, this Northwestern State team, they're still rebuilding everything. This is essentially a bye game for Cincinnati. So overall, there's no reason this team shouldn't be up 21-0, 24-0 at the end of the first quarter, per se. Right? Minnesota hung 35 on them in the first quarter. So they have their opportunities. Minnesota came away with 2 pick six last week. I know this defense is hungry and antsy to maybe have their first turnover of the year as well. So this is a great week to have it. So overall, that would be a great sight to see. But back to the injury front. I'll start with Drew Logan. That is the one that is most gutting for
Yep.
Cincinnati because for people who don't know Drew's story, he had plenty of offers to go to a smaller per se MAC school or whatnot coming out of high school, but he elected to walk on to Cincinnati. He has worked his butt off relentlessly, kept his head down and worked, stayed through the coaching change. Actually, just got put on scholarship not too long ago, and then to see him go down with the torn ACL, it's kind of devastating because we've been around the program, we've seen all the hard work that Drew has put in. I mean, from walk on to scholarship, it's not easy in college football, but to see him go down on Saturday, and you kind of could see he knew the extent of the severity of the injury right away by how he was banging on the turf and whatnot. So just devastated to hear that for a guy like Drew Logan as well. So thoughts and prayers to him for quick recovery and hopefully maybe be back on the field next year. I don't know how that would all work as of right now. Things are a lot still unfolding. Whether he could maybe try for a medical red shirt, who knows? But just hate to see that for Drew Logan as well. So, and then you flip it back to Dante Corleone. I mean, Russ, you and I talked about it earlier in the show. There is no reason for him to play this week. If he is not 100% healthy, there is no reason for him to be out there versus a FCS opponent in Northwestern State who has not put up what more than 50 points in 2.5 years roughly. So I
I
mean,
think they got their first win of the season or their first win in like 2 or 3 years in week one. And
yeah,
I know for a fact they didn't win a game last year. So yeah, this
yeah.
is one of the worst, if not the worst FCS team in the entire country.
Yeah, and we asked Scott Satterfield for an injury update on Tuesday, and he said it was a quote unquote lower half injury, which we kind of saw during the game when the injury happened. We saw him getting his ankle taped overall on the
Yeah.
sideline. He tried to come back in, but for Dante Corleone to kind of come back in and then say, "Hey, shut it down." I mean, he knew the severity of it, which was probably the smartest thing he could have done. And his statement was, "Hey, I'm going to shut this thing down. I want to get healthy." Big 12 conference play is right around the corner. You're up against Bowling Green. He gets hurt. And then you go into Northwestern State, then a bye week. It's smart for it was a smart play for Cincinnati's medical staff, Scott Satterfield and Dante Corleone to say, "Hey, let me take a couple weeks off. Let me get fully healthy heading into the potential Kansas week." But it's not, and then Scott Satterfield also noted Russ on his 700 WLW weekly radio show. He called it a quote unquote dinged ankle. So if it's anything based on that, it's just a sprained ankle, potentially maybe something light over there on that side, which backs it up because he was getting that ankle worked pretty frequently throughout the game as well. So overall, for Dante Corleone, it's worth noting too, Russ, Saturday after the injury, no boot, no crutches,
Right.
no brace.
Walking
That's
around on his own power, was walking around fine
right.
on the sidelines.
So
So
that is probably the best injury update that Cincinnati could have had was it was nothing serious for Dante. And with the bye week coming, just rest him. Let him get healthy. This should be a week where it's smart. You have 2 weeks heading into a Kansas team, and they're going to need him versus Kansas because if they can't stop the run versus Bowling Green, how are you going to contain a run with a dual threat quarterback in 2 weeks with Jalen Daniels? So they're going to need Dante Corleone for that matchup to say the least, and you would
and
rather have.
they still got Devin Neal too, don't they? That the Kansas running
Mhm.
back. Yeah.
Yep, you're going to want him at full strength. So overall, good sign, good positive injury update on Dante Corleone and Logan Wilson. Russ, I know we talked about it earlier in the week. I saw him going through warm-ups for probably 45 minutes before the game. It sounds like it was just a minor thing. And once again, Cincinnati took the precautionary route because you're going to need Logan Wilson as the season goes down too. He's one of your heart and souls there at the cornerback position. And it wasn't perfect timing of the injury, but it happened at a time where Armani Arnold comes back and plays and Logan's out, but now you're heading into Northwestern State where you have full strength at that cornerback position for the first time all season. You have Armani Arnold back, you have Logan Wilson back, you have Matthew McDoom, Daniel James got some quality reps versus Bowling Green over the weekend, so it's huge for them to come back as well. But like you mentioned, Russ, this is going to be a game where everybody's going to get everybody should be getting reps on Saturday, right? You and I are probably going to have our stories typed probably by halftime of this one. So exciting news, positive news, but I I'm right there with you. It's got to be a game where you hang 500 yards of offense, 50 points per se to Cincinnati to build your confidence heading into Kansas.
I'm going to roll 56-13, Neil. I think they sneak a late touchdown in. It's hard to keep a team out of the end zone for that long, especially when you're rolling through so many different defensive
Mhm.
options all up and down that depth chart. So give me 56-13 Bearcats. What do you got?
I'm going to go with 54-13. So we're right in the same ballpark, but for me, the key to this game is Cincinnati just come out and pour it on them early.
There you go.
Light the fire with some gasoline and let's get this offense going.
And then 2 weeks to prepare for Kansas. And then it'll be 3 weeks between injury and next game action for Dante Corleone. So hopefully, fingers crossed for Bearcats fans, he can get out there and this team, which was so healthy all camp, can be as close to full strength as possible once Big 12 play starts. That is the goal for Cincinnati. For Neil Meyer, I'm Russ Eltman. This has been Bearcat Blitz on the Believe Network, presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. Have a great weekend, everybody. Enjoy the action against Northwestern State.
It's a deep shot. He's got Tyler Scott, and he's into open space.